I want to tell y'all a story. So, some years back, I got a call from a former colleague at Microsoft who said, and I'm paraphrasing, we did a little oopsie and we released something that we shouldn't have, and we need you to come in and help build a process for us. And I knew this because I had been personally affected by this. So what they wanted to do was release version 35.2. There's a bunch of numbers before that. Don't worry about it. This game was released on a monthly cadence, new content every month, new multiplayer, new menus, all that stuff. The monthly cadence was really important. Unfortunately, they released a red sign build, 37.2. Little whoopsie. Here are some headlines from that release. So, customers very upset. This took a while to resolve. The reaction from the team was to have every user manually delete their game and then reinstall off what was on the current CDN. The platform at the time did not support roll back, only roll forward, and they did not have a plan for this. Nobody was really prepared for this. Now, what was the impact of this? Well, marketing had all of their year-long data released, all of the car lists, everything, all spoiled for everybody. Some users waited for cars that never came, like, test car 2026. It was a pretty drastic impact on marketing. They were not very happy about it. Users had data caps. As you saw, 53 gig download, not good for a majority of the world. So when you download a red sign build, it does not have a differential. So users downloaded that entire 53 gigs, then they had to delete it, download another 53 more. And that meant that a lot of our active users, the ones that were really excited for this update, were the most impacted. Finally, the user experience. Unless you were chronically online, you did not know that you needed to delete your client and reinstall a new one. Since it was a roll forward platform, you would just have a broken build on your system. And even worse than that, if your save game was overwritten with that client, your save game was toast forever. And finally, piracy. There are still versions of this client out there because it did not have any DRM on it. And it propagated everywhere. You might even see some of those car models and content on many AI sites today. So, what went wrong? Everybody in the pipeline did their job. The content created the models, tracks, sounds, physics, dev built the client, pipeline shipped it out. Everybody did their stage of the process. And all it took was one little break in the process to create catastrophe. So what we learned from this was that the responsibility for deploying software at a high quality is not just a checklist or a process, it's a comprehensive effort. It's culture. Any healthcare professional will tell you that checklists will save lives, but these are just basic requirements, and I'm not going to talk about procedures and processes. I think those are individual for your company and your team. But there was no culture of, we need to ship this, and we need to ship it the right way. Years later, when I started work at TPCI, they had the opposite system. This is kind of like a fixed stop process, right? It mirrors the assembly line of a car. We'll move forward with one big product, and we will stop, and we'll get approval from everybody, and then we'll move forward to the next step. And with a company like this, it meant that we had to take down processes, services, websites for a period of time in order to get everything out the door. It also meant that directors had input into this. So everybody in the entire company was saying, okay, this one release that we do every month is going out the door. The problem with that is the bigger the company got, the more cars needed to come through the line, and we just couldn't do that. So I'm sure everybody in this room is really familiar with kind of CI/CD, multiple stage environment, multiple beta environments, multiple prod environments, pushing everything out. Believe it or not, there was a lot of pushback to this. Since we had an established process, we had everything broken out by day. We're going to have this meeting, this meeting, this meeting. Everybody was comfortable with it. Everybody knew exactly what they needed to do, and everybody accepted that we were going to sacrifice the customer experience for our comfort. So, two opposites, two lived examples. Reckless abandon versus overprotection, I would say. Information silos versus information overload. And I think the key to that evolution for both businesses was development in SRE culture. So last year at SREcon, I couldn't find anybody that had the title of SRE in all the discussion groups. And there are a lot of people, managers, that were looking to define what SRE meant to them and their team. So this is not a comprehensive list of things to help build your culture, in my experience, of SREs, but should help. All right, this is very buzzwordy. I'm really sorry, integrate everywhere. I can't think of a better way to say this. And when I say integrate, I mean talk to everybody. Product manufacturing, accounting, legal, the front desk, everybody. There are endless ways to provide a little bit of value everywhere you can. So let's take it like an example is, let's say security check-in at the front desk. They print out those little badges for you when you come visit. That system is usually run through a vendor. Take your expertise, build a dashboard, a down detector, and say, oh, when this service goes down, you ping the front desk. This is something that they can see. They don't have expertise into building dashboards, but you'll help them out a little way. And that tiny work that you do can have a huge impact on that relationship. Maybe it leads somewhere, maybe it doesn't, but everybody in the scenario gains knowledge of each other for future issues. So like for the Microsoft example, we saw that process and information silos hurt the final product because every person was always focused on their individual task. Coordination is best, before you ship something than afterwards. And you as SREs have a distinct advantage in that you can see everything. You have insight into basically every system in the business. So take advantage of that. Second, data-backed storytelling. Who's heard this before? You really want to normalize creating stories based on data and not the other way around. If you show somebody a dashboard with, line goes up, line goes down, they're not going to know what to do with that. But if you tell them, all right, I was trying to log in, and it took me 30 seconds to load our front page image. Your director is going to be like, what is happening, right? People cannot drink from the fire hose like a lot of people in this room can. So, be a storyteller. What is the data telling you that you can relate to them? Use that empathy. There are a lot of tools out in the hallway, and they're all great. But unless you can convince your boss to spend that money on those tools, you're not going to get them. Influence everyone. Those data-backed stories are going to give you the currency to influence everyone you talk to all at once. Thank you for the intro. I was a game designer for a while, and most of that job was annoying people and asking them to make my game pitch work for years and years and years, telling the same story over and over again. So if you're going to tell that story, you might as well make it good. You might as well have data to back it up. If you are the person that talks about software quality, then everyone will eventually listen. Just be that person that people think of when they think of, you know what, I didn't have a good experience. Who should I go to in the company to help us out? Provide data stories to leadership that they didn't know that they needed. Be the evangelist without being too aggressive because nobody wants to be annoyed. Visibility is important, but not at the cost of alienation. You don't want to be a pariah. Speaking of visibility, this is a tough one for some people in the room, especially me. Excuse me. But you've got to make yourself visible to the business and be accountable for everything that happens in your program. It can be very uncomfortable. This can be talking to teams that you've never talked to before, confronting conflict with coworkers that don't want to follow that process, getting up on stage and talking to people when you're clearly uncomfortable. But it also means that when you get responses, whether that be noncompliance, resistance, feedback, it should be received and assessed. It doesn't mean that every response requires integration or a process change, just that all response data is valuable and should be recorded. So in the Microsoft example, we can see that those mistakes had significant financial impact, but to scapegoat a person for poor process is not just destructive and ineffective, but it also covers up your failures in the process. All feedback is valuable, and those failures will persist. For the processes that I build, the test team, quality team, whatever you want to call them, they get final say in everything that goes out to the end user. They are the arbiters of the customer experience. So they hold the keys to quality, and they have the final say and final trust in everything. Because if a failure has comprehensive consequences, then why aren't quality processes comprehensively instituted at all levels of the business? And leadership will fight you on this sometimes. They will say, we need this to go out. This has a financial, dollar amount attached. But you have to be as strong as you can be and say, no, this is a bad idea, and here's why, and escalate if needed. You have to be the advocate for the customer or the end user, whatever that looks like in your process, and sometimes you just have to say no. And finally, y'all are going to hate this one. What did my thing freeze? Operate with joy. I mentioned this earlier to effectively promote your culture in a space where people have to come into an office and kind of cram up to a desk and stare at a screen for 8 hours or more a day. You have to interject an appropriate amount of joy. Nobody wants to follow the example of an unseemly curmudgeon and just why would I want to be like that person? It's related to all those aspects of positive mental outlook. I talked a lot about this in discussions at this conference, or even positive code theory. But in effect, you all will always require some buy-in of your process. You're asking developers to spend time checking their own work. You're asking leadership to pay for tools that indirectly tell them that the work needs safeguards. You're hopefully going to the other parts of the business and trying to show them your value. And you will not be successful in those things without displaying a passion about reliability and quality. It's easier to grease the wheels with positivity. I'm not saying you have to base your personality around working for a company. Your goals should be more in line with how you choose to project yourself. But I am saying that you are more likely to get what you want by making others feel a part of a joyful community. That's all. Thank you.